Hello, everybody, and this is Narendra Kumar from NRK Academy. And today, in our classic stories with vocabulary study, and this video will read out one of the great short stories by Guy de Maupassant called Diamond Necklace. And we'll be doing the vocabulary study in the next video. And this is story number 4. The Necklace by Guy de Maupassant. She was one of those pretty and charming girls born as though fate had made a mistake over her, into a family of artisans, small people who makes little bit of art. She had no marriage portion, no expectations, no means of getting known, understood, loved, and wedded by a man of wealth and distinction, and she let herself be married off. She allowed herself to be married off to a little clerk in the Ministry of Education. Her tastes were simple because she had never been able to afford, like buy things, never been able to afford any other, but she was as unhappy as though she had married beneath her. She has married beneath her, lower than her. For women, here Guy de Maupassant says, for women have no caste or class, their beauty, grace, and charm serving them for birth or family. Serving them for birth of family or family. That is a substitute. Their beauty, grace, and charm is like a substitute. Serving them for birth of family. Their natural delicacy, their instinctive elegance, their style, their nimbleness of wit. Nimbleness, which is very fine, and wit is humor, a sense of humor. For women have no caste or class, their beauty, grace, and charm serving them for birth or family, their natural delicacy, their instinctive elegance, their nimbleness of wit are their only mark of rank, and put the slum girl on a level with the highest lady in the land. That's what beautiful sentences he writes about women, how they look at themselves. And their only mark of rank, and put the slum girl, a girl who lives in a very poor house, slum house, on a level, same level, with the highest lady in the land. She suffered endlessly, feeling herself born for every delicacy and luxury. She felt, I was born for all this luxury and delicacy. She suffered from the poorness of her house, from its mean walls, M-E-A-N, mean walls means very low quality. Worn chairs, W-O-R-N. Here the meaning of worn is spoiled, become old, and ugly curtains. All these things of which other women of her class would not even have been aware, tormented and insulted her. The sight of the little Breton girl who came to do the work in her little house aroused heartbroken regrets. The sight of the little Breton girl who came to do the work in her little house aroused, aroused means brought out, heartbroken regrets. Regrets means I wanted this, I didn't get it. And hopeless dreams in her mind. She imagined, what did she imagine? She imagined silent antechambers, heavy with oriental tapestries, these carpets, lit by torches in lofty bronze sockets. High bronze sockets, with two tall footmen in knee breeches sleeping in large armchairs, overcome by the heavy warmth of the stove. She imagined vast saloons hung with antique silks, exquisite pieces of furniture, supporting priceless ornaments, and small, charming, perfumed rooms. Her imagination, created just for little parties of intimate friends, men who were famous and sought after, whose homage, sought after means they wanted her, men whose homage, like you respect, high respect, roused every other woman's envious longings. So It rouses, brought about other women's envious longings, desires. When she sat down for dinner at the round table covered with a 3 days old cloth, opposite her husband, who took the cover off the soup tureen, exclaiming delightedly, "Aha, Scotch broth, what could be better?" She imagined, and what did she imagine? Delicate meals, gleaming silver, tapestries peopling the walls, with folk of a past age and strange birds in fairy forests. She imagined delicate food served in marvelous dishes. Murmured gallantries. Gallantries means beautiful words. Listen to, with an inscrutable, you can't understand, deep, inscrutable smile as one trifled, enjoyed with the rosy flesh of trout or wings of asparagus chicken. She had no clothes, no jewels, nothing. And these were the only things she loved. She felt that she was made for them. See? So you can see that the Guide of Maupassant is showing her character. She had longed so eagerly to charm, to be desired, to be widely attractive and sought after. Sought after means people wanting her. She had a rich friend, an old school friend, whom she refused to visit because she suffered so keenly, sharply. Keenly means sharply when she returned home. She would weep whole days with grief and regret, despair and misery. One evening, her husband came home with an exultant air, very triumphant air. Exultant means high feeling of joy, holding a large envelope in his hand. "Here's something for you," he said. Swiftly, she tore the paper and drew out a printed card on which these words were written: "The Minister of Education and Madame Ramponnet request the pleasure of the company of Monsieur and Madame Loisel at the Ministry on the evening of Monday, January the 18th. It is an invitation. Instead of being delighted as her husband hoped, she flung means through the invitation petulantly, like a child, with anger across the table, murmuring, telling in soft words, "What do you want me to do with this? Why, darling, I thought you would be pleased. You never go out, and this is a great occasion. I had tremendous trouble, great trouble. Tremendous means great trouble. To get it, everyone wants one. It's very select, and very few people. If you go to the clerks, the invitation you will see all the really big people there." She looked at him out of furious eyes, anger, and said impatient, "What do you suppose I am to wear at such an affair?" And he had not thought about. He stammered, "Oh, the address, you go to the theater, and it looks very nice to me." He stopped, stupefied, stupefied, as you can see there, stupefied. He was like surprised, shocked, and utterly, absolutely at a loss when he saw that his wife was beginning to cry. Two large tears ran down from the corners of her eyes towards the corners of her mouth. "What's the matter with you? What's the matter with you?" he faltered. But with a violent effort, she overcame her grief. Overcame. This means she got out of that mood. Her grief means sadness, extreme sadness, and replied in a calm voice, wiping her wet cheeks, "Nothing, only I haven't a dress, and so I can't go to this party. Give your invitation to some friend of yours whose wife will be better turned out, look out, better looking, better than I shall." He was heartbroken. "Look here, Mathilde," he persisted. Tried to convince her. He didn't stop it. "What would be the cost of a suitable dress which you could use on other occasions as well? Something very simple." She thought for several seconds, reckoning up prices and also wondering for how large a sum she could ask without bringing upon herself an immediate refusal, and an exclamation of horror from the careful-minded clerk. At last she replied with some hesitation, "I don't know exactly, but I think I could do it on 400 francs. So she said if she give me 400 francs, I'll buy a dress. He grew slightly pale, a little pale, he lost the color on his face. But this was exactly the amount he had been saving for a gun, intending to get a little shooting next summer on the plain of Nanterre with some friends who went lark shooting there on Sundays. Nevertheless, he said, very well, I'll give you 400 francs, but try and get a really nice dress with the money. The day of the party drew near, and Madame Loisel seemed sad, uneasy, and anxious. Uneasy, not comfortable, anxious, very, very anxious, tense. Her dress was ready, however. One evening, her husband said to her, "What's the matter with you? You've been very odd for the last 3 days." She said, "I'm utterly miserable at not having any jewels. Not a single stone to wear," she replied. "I shall look absolutely no one. I would almost rather not go to the party." "Wear flowers," he said. "They're very smart at this time of the year. For 10 francs, you could get 2 or 3 gorgeous roses." She was not convinced. No, there's nothing so humiliating as looking poor in the middle of a lot of rich women. "How stupid you are," exclaimed her husband. "Go and see Madame Forestier and ask her to lend you some jewels. You know her quite well enough for that." She uttered a cry of delight. "That's true. I never thought of it." Next day she went to see her friend and told her her trouble. Madame Forestier went to her dressing table, took up a large box, brought it to Madame Loisel, brought it to Madame Loisel, brought it and Madame Loisel brought it to Madame Loisel, opened it and said, "Choose, my dear." First she saw some bracelets, then a pearl necklace, then a Venetian cross in gold and gems of exquisite workmanship. She tried the effect of the jewels before the mirror, hesitating, unable to make up her mind to leave them, to give them up. She kept on asking, "Haven't you anything else?" "Yes, look for yours. I don't know what you would like best." Suddenly she discovered in a black satin case a superb diamond necklace. Her heart began to beat covetously. Coveting means wanting. Her hands trembled as she lifted it. She fastened it round her neck, upon her high dress, and remained in ecstasy at sight of herself. She became so overjoyed. Then, with hesitation, she asked in anguish, pain, "Could you lend me this, just this alone?" "Yes, of course." She flung herself on her friend's breast, embraced her frenziedly, crazily, and went away with her treasure. The day of the party arrived. Madame Loisel was a success. She was the prettiest woman present, elegant, graceful, elegant, stylish, graceful, smiling, and quite above herself with happiness. All the men stared at her, inquired her name, and asked to be introduced to her. All the under-secretaries of state were eager to waltz, dance with her. The minister noticed her. She danced madly, ecstatically, drunk with pleasure, with no thought for anything, in the triumph of her beauty, in the pride of her success, in a cloud of happiness made of this universal homage. Homage is like respect, high respect, and admiration of the desires she had aroused. Brought out of the completeness of a victory so dear to her feminine heart. So dear to her feminine heart. So these are the emotions she felt when people were worshipping her, looking up to her. She left about 4 o'clock in the morning. Since midnight, her husband had been dozing in a deserted little room in company with 3 other men whose wives were having a good time. So these guys were there. He threw over her shoulders the garments he had brought for them to go home in, modest everyday clothes, whose poverty clashed with the beauty of the ball dress. She was conscious of this and was anxious to hurry away, go away fast, so that she should not be noticed by the other women. Putting on their costly furs, Loisel restrained her. "Wait a little, you will catch cold in the open. I'm going to fetch a cab." Loisel is the husband, restrained her, stopped her. "Wait a little, you will catch cold in the open. I'm going to fetch a cab." But she did not listen to him, and rapidly is fast, descended down the staircase. When they were out in the street, they could not find a cab. They began to look for one, shouting at the drivers whom they saw passing in the distance. They walked down towards the scene, desperate and shivering. At last they found on the quay one of those old night prowling carriages. Prowling is moving around in the night. Carriages which are only to be seen in Paris after dark, as though they were ashamed of their shabbiness, dirty in the daylight. It brought them to their door in the Rue des Martyrs, and sadly they walked up to their own apartment. It was the end for her. As for him, he was thinking that he must be at the office at 10. She took off the garments in which she had covered her shoulders, so as to see herself in all her glory before the mirror. But suddenly she uttered a cry. The necklace was no longer round her neck. "What's the matter with you?" asked her husband, already half undressed. She turned towards him in the utmost distress, agony. I have no longer got Madame Forestier's necklace. He started with astonishment. "What? Impossible!" They searched in the folds of her dress, in the folds of the coat, in the pockets, everywhere. They could not find it. "Are you sure that you still had it on when you came away from the ball?" he asked. "Yes, I touched it in the hall at the ministry. But if you had lost it in the street, we should have heard it fall." "Yes, probably we should. Did you take the number of the cab?" "No." "You didn't notice it, did you?" "No." They stared at one another, looked straight, stared at one another, dumbfounded. They didn't have any word to say, dumbfounded. No word to say at last. Loisel put on his clothes again. "I will go over all the ground we walked," he said, and see if we can't find it. And he went out. She remained in her evening clothes, lacking strength to get into bed, huddled, which means, catching yourself close, on a chair without volition, free will, or power of thought. Her husband returned up about 7. He had found nothing. He went to the police station, to the newspapers, to offer a reward to the cab companies. Everywhere that a ray of hope impelled him. Impelled means pushed him. Impelled is pushed him. She waited. She waited all day long in the same state of bewilderment. Bewilderment, not understanding what's happening is bewilderment. At this fearful, full of fear, catastrophe, emergency situation. Actually, it's like a complete failure. Loisel came home at night, his face lined and pale. All the color gone from his face is pale. He had discovered nothing. "You must write to your friend," he said, "and tell her that you have broken the clasp of her necklace and are getting it mended." Clasp, which you tie you cover the necklace at the end, hold it together, and are getting it mended. So you're getting it repaired. That mended is repaired. That will give us time to look about us. She wrote at his dictation. So he dictated. By the end of a week, they had lost all hope. Loisel, who had aged 5 years, declared, "We must see about replacing the diamonds." Next day, they took the box which had held the necklace and went to the jeweler's whose name was inside. He consulted his books. "It was not I who sold this necklace, madam. I must have merely supplied the clasp." "I just supplied the clasp," he said. Then they went from jeweler to jeweler, searching for another necklace like the first, consulting their memories, both ill, weak, ill, with remorse and anguish of mind. Remorse means regret, a feeling of sorry feeling, and anguish of mind. Anguish means pain of mind. In a shop at the Palais Royal, they found a string of diamonds which seemed to them exactly like the one they were looking for. It was worth 40,000 francs. They were allowed to have it for 36,000. They begged the jeweler not to sell it for 3 days, and they arranged matters on the understanding that it would be taken back for 34,000 francs if the first one were found before the end of February. Loisel possessed 18,000 francs left to him by his father. He intended to borrow the rest. He did borrow it, getting 1,000 from one man, 500 from another, 5 louis here, 3 louis there. He gave notes of hand, entered into ruinous agreements. It will ruin his life. Did business with usurers and the whole tribe of moneylenders. They charge high rates of interest. He mortgaged, that is, give some property and get money, the whole remaining years of his existence. Risked his signature without even knowing if he could honor it, and appalled at the agonizing face of the future, at the black misery about to fall upon him. Now in their life, nothing was there except to pay back debt. At the prospect of every possible physical privation means tough situation, tough work, and moral torture, he went to get the new necklace and put down upon the jeweler's counter 36,000 francs. When Madame Loisel took back the necklace to Madame Forestier, the latter, her friend, said to her in a chilly voice, "You ought to have brought it back sooner. I might have needed it." She did not, as her friend had feared, open the case. If she had noticed the substitution, what would she have thought? What would she have said? Would she not have taken her for a thief? Madame Loisel came to know the ghastly life of abject poverty. Now she came to know the extreme poverty. Abject means extreme. Very sorry state of affairs. Abject. Very low level. From the very first, she played her part heroically. This fearful debt must be paid off. She would pay it. The servant was dismissed. They changed their flat. They took a garret under the roof. She came to know the heavy work of the house, the hateful duties of the kitchen. She washed the plates, wearing out her pink nails on the coarse pottery and the bottoms of pans. She washed the dirty linen, the shirts and dishcloths, and hung them out to dry on a string. Every morning she took the dustbin down into the street and carried up the water, stopping on each landing to get her breath. And clad like a poor woman, she went to the fruiterer, to the grocer, to the butcher, a basket on her arm, haggling, insulted, fighting for every wretched half penny of her money. Wretched, horrible. Every month notes had to be paid off, others renewed. Time gained. Time gained. Her husband worked in the evenings at putting straight a merchant's accounts, and often at night he did copying at 2 pence halfpenny a page. And this life lasted 10 years. 10 years. And this life lasted 10 years. 10 years of extreme effort. At the end of 10 years, everything was paid off. Everything. The usurer's charges and the accumulation of superimposed interest. Something like compound interest. Madame Loisel looked old now. Madame Loisel looked old now. She had become like all the other strong, hard, coarse means rough women of poor households. Her hair was badly done. Her skirts were awry. Awry means not proper. No, not properly dressed. Her hands were red. She spoke in a shrill voice, high-pitched voice, and the water slopped all over the floor when she scrubbed it. But sometimes, when her husband was at the office, she sat down by the window and thought of that evening long ago, of the ball at which she had been so beautiful and so much admired. What would have happened if she had never lost those jewels? Who knows? Who knows? How strange life is, how fickle. Fickle means very superficial. Cheating. How little is needed, really. How little is needed to ruin or to save, to spoil or to save. One Sunday, as she had gone for a walk along the Champs-Elysees to freshen herself after the labors of the week, she caught sight suddenly of a woman who was taking a child out for a walk. It was Madame Forestier, her friend, still young, still beautiful, still attractive. Madame Loisel was conscious of some emotion. Should she speak to her? Yes, certainly. And now that she had paid, she would tell her all. Why not? She went up to her. Good morning, Jean. The other did not recognize her and was surprised at being thus familiarly addressed by a poor woman. But, madam, she stammered, I don't know. You must be making a mistake. No, I'm Mathilde Loisel. Her friend uttered a cry. Oh, my poor Mathilde, how you have changed. Yes, I have had some hard times since I saw you last, and many sorrows, and all on your account. On my account? How was that? You remember the diamond necklace you lent me for the ball at the ministry? Yes. Well, I lost it. How could you? Why? You brought it back. I brought you another one just like it. And for the last 10 years, we have been paying for it. You realize it wasn't easy for us. We had no money. Well, it's paid for at last. And I'm glad indeed. Madame Forestier had halted. She stopped. You say you bought a diamond necklace to replace mine? Yes. You hadn't noticed it? They were very much alike. And she smiled in proud and innocent happiness. Madame Forestier, deeply moved means deeply touched, took her two hands. Oh, my poor Mathilde, But mine was imitation. Mine was imitation. It was worth at the very most 500 francs. So that was a twisted ending. It's a very great story. And that completes the story. So that worked for 10 years. She had lost all her beauty, all her ambition for something which was actually only 500 francs. And that is the way, as you can see and understand, I don't have to explain. We should not explain great classic stories. There is a lot of meaning in every word, every line, every thought, every feeling. Everything is there. And I would not like to come between you and Guide Maupassant. You can see this video many times. You can read it silently in the original. And this is a great journey in master classic stories. And in the next video, this is the fourth story. In the next video, we will do the vocabulary study of all the new words we got here so that you can really totally master all the words also. Thank you so much. I enjoyed sharing this story. I hope, I'm sure you, all of you also must have enjoyed it. Thank you so much.